Welcome back to Pan-African Morning to all our viewers across the continent. Thank you for staying with us. We certainly appreciate it. It's just gone 7:30 Central African time, depending on where you're watching us from. Of course, we're happy that you're still with us. I'm your host, Audrey Thwala. Before the break, I promised you that we have a special guest that will be joining us on the green couch, and it has come to fruition. Dr. MAMBONA is not new to Pan-African Morning, and we're always happy to have you back. Dr. MAMBONA, thank you and welcome back.
Thank you very much. Compliments.
Yes, oh yes, we haven't seen you since last year. Can you believe it? And a lot has happened.
A lot has happened.
I want to refer to, and of course to some of our viewers who may not be familiar with your work. You specialize in preventative measures on projects, when it comes to your budgets and surveys, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes. I want to refer to the, Aegis report, Auditor General's report that came through about a few months ago, with only 21 municipalities achieving a clean audit, more than R1 billion spent on consultants and over 32 billion rand in irregular expenditure. I mean, those are jarring numbers, when we get to hear about them, especially in a country that is trying to have some kind of economic recovery, after this COVID-19 has plundered the economy that was already on its knees. Yes. What kind of measures do you think municipalities need to be looking into to try and mitigate some of these flaws?
That's an important question. To be honest, I think the model of governing government finances should change. The management and the monitoring and the supervision on the part of the AG should change completely. Because what we are hearing, it's post facto, analysis of issues year upon year.
Yes.
It's like reporting corruption every year and setting up in a commission. It means absolutely nothing. So the model must change. How it should change, this is a humble opinion. You need to put anti-corruption surveillance systems. In other words, you prevent this not to happen. So you come with various...
Prevention is better than cure.
Yes.
Not that there's ever been a cure at this point, to be honest.
At least you neutralize or you minimize, you mitigate by coming up with this surveillance systems that stops completely if there is an intention of corruption. I'll give an example. In your system, you make sure that there's red alert. If, say, for instance, the budget is exceeded or what, there has to be an activation of some intervention that, if I may put it, collapses that transaction. And that transaction can be escalated to authority above. Right. And if it does something wrong, also it needs to collapse so that it can finally be approved by the right person. This thing is not rocket science.
I was about to say, you make it sound so simple.
It's simple.
But we're not having those measures put into place. Is there just no will from the people in place to make sure that, because just yesterday we hear Panyaza Lesufi saying people need to account, not himself, saying people need to account for over 400 million that was supposedly misused in the decontamination of classrooms.
The framework is wrong, the model is wrong. You cannot blame the people unless your systems are correct. You need to create software that stops that. And it's so simple to do that. So that when you are dealing with a particular transaction, you are able to microscopically assess it, analyze it, and approve it when it has to be proven. So 413 million that is spent in 6 months, there should have been a system that somehow made sure that this thing does not go through, or it informs somebody who's even senior than the MEC to intervene and say, we are stopping this. That can be linked to the National Treasury. It can be linked to, to some authority that will say, what's going on? It's now 193. But now, all what you do, you are waiting for whistleblowers to make sure that you are woken up to what you should have done.
And from outside of the department.
From outside. What kind of a system that relies on whistleblowers every time to alert you that something is wrong?
And this conversation is particularly important now with the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines.
Absolutely.
The conversation of whether it should just only be government that's involved in procuring, or private players should also come in and be involved. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, unfortunately, there are no systems.
Once again,
you rely on you have faith. You put faith on the people who are appointed there. And you put trust. There's an old saying that trust no one in this world. You can only trust the systems. That at least will minimize any issue that is contradictory to governance. You can come up with your PFMA. You can come up with your King's Principles. You can come up with a delegation of authority. I tell you now, it won't work until we wake up and say, these are the systems that we need to enact and integrate into the system nationally, locally, provincially, and nationally.
Right.
So that we control. You cannot rely on people's, honesty or not. Those days are gone.
Yeah, clearly.
Create system work into fourth IR, where these things are simple. That's why I'm talking so easily and loosely, because you can even do more, to be honest.
Just looking into your profile as well, Dr. Mambona, you're a specialist on marketing and sales. Yes. You were group sales and marketing at the SABC, and your team made a good turnover, a profit, so to speak, during the time that you were there. We always refer to that. People used to get the 14th check or the 13th check. The SABC is in tatters at the moment. I mean, the laying off of over 300 workers at the moment is something that really is scary, especially during these times. What is going on there? What is your assessment of what's going on there?
Well, before I was dismissed for politics, get out of here. You are not part of us. You think independently. We suggested at the time, when we assessed the building, we assessed many things with the team there, and we realized that we need to make a proposal to government saying that we no longer need this infrastructure. Communications is now integrated between radio and television. The space that you used to have when you were a sole broadcaster in South Africa is gone. The market is competitive. So in other words, to cut a long story short, sell off this infrastructure, build a small campus, media campus, where you could assign people who ought to be there. That could have been easy, could have solved these things.
Yeah.
I mean, you are maintaining old lifts there, paying millions, air conditions, you are paying. There's a lot of costs that you don't need to incur. If you can take a trip on SABC and see the underground, the infrastructure, how it was built, there are a lot of things which are not necessarily important in the digital media industry.
Right.
So in other words, sell off that building and take the staff that you need where you ought to be and become competitive in the digital, paradigm. That's all what you need to do. Where you are, you ought not to be there. That thing, if we did it in 2010, I can tell you SABC would have been far.
And this chronic problem, which I like to call it chronic problem, of always trying to resuscitate state-owned enterprises. I mean, the SAA, South African Airways, Eskom load shedding. I don't know if you're experiencing any where you live. Is there no risk assessments that are done to make sure that, you know, these things don't happen?
Look, at the end of the day, like I say, if your protocols are not correct and then are not properly followed, in fact, the risk management is so crucial in these parastatals that within risk management, because when you do risk management, you're talking about a lot of things. You know, you're talking about staff, finances, you know, the political scenario externally and internally.
Right.
So there's a lot of assessment that you keep on doing. But all what you need to do is the purposefulness in terms of delivering that strategy. I'll give you an example. Far-fetched but important. President says to Alexandra community, we're gonna build 1 million houses as the ANC in the next 5 years, blah, blah, blah. That's what he said, you know, if you go to archives. But that cannot come into fruition unless there is a project plan that visualizes how this needs to be done. So this leads you to the next step. What is the president's project delivery strategy? You'll find that those words are not converted. But if they are converted into the plans, I say, that's good. But where is the delivery strategy out of that?
Yes. How is the National Treasury aware of this in terms of their planning and their budgeting as well? You know, when you hear the president speaking of that. Because where's the money coming from? Because
that's their work. If the president says to the community, we are going to build you 1 million houses, then action must start. You know, because when you do that transformation at Alexander, you need to say, are we going to build 1 million houses by what? Removing these people first or what? Or they are going to be there, but we are going to slowly transform this township in this manner and that manner. It's a huge task, which involves many disciplines, the corporate, the commercial world, the government world. So the partnership must come and come up with a delivery strategy that must make this possible. So I'm saying at the end of the day, the parastatals suffers from delivery strategies. You know, all what they do is to create these documents that they are going to present at Parliament, which is good. But they lack the technocrats of converting those documents now into executable strategies that can make a change, that can provide services to different, you know, sections of the community in South Africa. So those are the things. But over and above that, if you don't have anti-corruption systems, you are not going to get the parastatals right. Because parastatals and state corruptions are synonymous.
Right.
So you need to do that. You need to integrate those systems. Unless you do that, we are sunk all the time.
You know, it brings me back to my biggest concern right now, you know, with the issues that we're facing with the COVID-19 vaccination. Apparently, we're getting the first batch on the 1st of February.
On Monday.
On Monday, you know, and I think to myself, do we have we really put a system in place to make sure that there's a record and there's some kind of a survey that is, okay, not a survey, but a record to make sure that, you know, there isn't duplication of people that come and get, I don't know if the 4IR comes into place when it comes to that regard, because they say that, you know, they seem to have put all of that into place, but I don't feel a lot of confidence, and I'm sure I'm not alone in my sentiments in this
All
regard.
this thing boils down to a delivery strategy of the vaccines that will be coming. What is the framework, the rollout plan? Who are you using? The service providers. Who are the service providers?
We still don't know any of that. It hasn't been articulated.
Who are going to be the service providers? Do they have anything any knowledge about distribution? Have they distributed anything in their lives? Do they have, technical people who can do X, Y, Z, monitoring this and that? So you need that. That should have happened in terms of organizing and planning 6 months ago or 12 months ago. That should have happened. We are soon. It cannot happen now if those things are coming here on Monday. Then it means there have to be, some time also to organize and plan. Because when you talk about a project, you first need to organize and plan. You need to understand that what is the scope of distribution? What is the objectives? What are the costs? What is the design? There's a lot of things because it's a project on itself. So you must hand it over to people who understand about the project. And a massive one too, at the end of the day. But may I just add something? Yes. That the government was caught napping with the high intellectual medical resources that you have in terms of the mines and the infrastructure. We were caught napping. We should have been the one who was manufacturing, manufacturing what the vaccines to be at the end of the day. We did it, we are far ahead with some vaccine, studies in terms of tropical diseases, AIDS and this and that.
Ebola, cholera, and all of that.
We are there with the best in the world. So we should have done that as early as April. Why are we sitting and waiting for the big guns all the time as if we are little boys waiting for superiors to say, you shall receive this from us, this and... No, we have the infrastructure and we have the brightest minds you can ever get anywhere in the world in South Africa. And who could have been driving this thing?
And procuring it at twice as much the price as countries that are way richer than we are, all because we were not involved in the research and development of this vaccine.
Absolutely.
So we get to pay the price.
But we have the facilities and the minds to actually formulate we can create our own virus that can actually prevent this at the end of the day. So those are the real problems that we are facing in terms of making sure, because health and healthcare is going to be the real core global issue in the following years. I mean, we were told that, there's going to be another virus after COVID-19. Bill Gates was saying that.
Oh, yes.
So it means we are going to live in an environment of health and healthcare where really business has to when they talk about the Great Reset, we are actually experiencing a low-impact reset, which is preparing us for the Great Reset. Yeah. Great Reset meaning that everything is going to be transformed. I mean, from 2021 to 2030, things are going to change drastically.
Is this what they're calling the New World Order? I mean, this term keeps being thrown around, and I don't think we've really analyzed it and understood and appreciate exactly what it means.
I mean, it's a very scary world whereby there is no middle class. It's either you are super rich or you are super poor. Because those that are going to survive are those that have multiple skills. You need to have relevant and you need to have relevant information. You need to have relevant education. You need to have relevant knowledge. And that will give you the appropriate skills. And once you have the appropriate skills, you'll be able to apply those skills. Because the new world that you are entering now, you in the cashless environment, you need to be able to provide solutions. You need to be able to provide to solve problems.
Right.
If you're not going to do that as a person, as an individual, you'll never survive. Between 2021, 2030 and beyond.
Yes,
no.
And we're already starting to see the signs of that now.
That's why I'm saying we're in a low-impact reset. So you need a skill range. Multiple skills, differentiated. You need to know, you need to have a skill set Multiple skills, but complementary. You need to re-educate yourself. You need new information, new education, new knowledge. Not spending 12 years at school and then your education and your certification is totally irrelevant.
Yes, and you spend that much time at school.
So that's the reset that we are talking about, that we need to prepare ourselves, all of us. That which we have right now is not necessarily that is going to help us to survive.
It's not what is needed at the moment, yes. No. And I think this is happening on individual level and also at national level.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. Very important conversation. We need to continue talking about this, Dr. MAMBONA. Yes, please promise us that you will come back. Hopefully this year, so that we won't have to say compliments the next time we see you again. Dr. MAMBONA joining us on the green couch there, talking about the risk assessment and, you know, as we're heading to really unprecedented times, with trying to deal with this COVID-19 pandemic. We'll take a very short break. Thereafter, we'll be back with more news and updates. Do stay with us. This is Pan-African Morning.